friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Stephanie Chase and today I am reviewing the April 12th edition of AEW Dynamite. Now, before we get into all the action and my reaction to the action, let me please remind you to hit that subscribe button or you are and turn on notifications to know every time I drop a new video. Just before this video went live, I was live on YouTube with my weekly Wrestling with the Chase series where I talk about a different topic every week that's in the news. This time it was all about that man back there. Yes, CM Punk. So please check that out. Also, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, share it on Twitter, wherever. All that stuff really helps me in the algorithm and it'd be greatly appreciated. You can also find me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Stephanie M. Chase. And if you want to support this channel and my work, maybe consider becoming a Patreon. Yes, go check out my Patreon. It is linked in the description box. Or you could also become a member of this channel. And I also have an OnlyFans if that's more your kind of thing. But all that kind of stuff really helps me with the work I do and will help me fulfill my goal of making wrestling my full-time gig by the end of this year. Honestly, that's what I'm aiming for. So any support is greatly appreciated. I also have a Substack where I do writing. And this week I put up an opinion piece about Cody Rhodes losing at WrestleMania. But as always, thank you all for your support, every single person who watches any one of my videos. I've had a really great week on YouTube since AEW announced All In. And speaking of that, I also have a video coming on my YouTube where I tell you all the latest we know about All In. And this is a little series that I'm going to be doing as we count down the weeks until the Wembley show. Now, that's enough about me. Let's get into this week's AEW Dynamite, which came live from Milwaukee. Okay, we started off with Darby Allin defeating Swerve Strickland. Now, I want to say this was a really great match. Swerve and Darby have a lot of history together, and you could see that by their awesome chemistry in the ring. Let's talk about Swerve for a minute. I see Swerve Strickland, and he is one of the most charismatic, compelling guys I have ever seen in wrestling. Amazing talker, great look, and he just exudes such star quality. And, you know, he started off teaming with Keith Lee. Then we had the Mogul affiliates where he was with Trench, the heavily tattooed man, and Parker Bordeaux, the pawn shop Brock Lesnar. That appears to have been dissolved after Parker had that, let's just say, not great wrestling appearance on the Rampage before Revolution. I was there live and he definitely needs some more training. Then on last week's Rampage, we saw Swerve announce that he was now aligned with the Embassy, Prince Nana, and Brian Cage, who were seen accompanying him at the beginning of the match and then got involved later. I would just love to see Swerve on his own. This guy is so amazing, cool, great, whatever positive adjective you want to put on him. And I don't know why they have to constantly surround him with people that are just not on his level of skill or general coolness. Like Brian Cage, I don't think so. Prince Nana is great, but I don't think he's necessary to be with Swerve. Swerve certainly doesn't need a mouthpiece or anything like that. So I'm just waiting for the day where they unleash Swerve and let him be a solo act. But as I said, the match was really good. Of course, we're building up this 4-pillar story. Now, I did say on Twitter that I wouldn't have booked this match. And yeah, I wouldn't have booked this match because Darby had to win, which meant Swerve had to lose. And I don't want either of these guys losing. And I don't want to see Swerve losing. So I don't know why he was put in this position, but he was. So yes, we're building up the 4 pillars story. So we saw Sammy Guevara and Ty Mello watching backstage yet again. And Jungle Boy was watching as well. Darby spent a lot of time like working over Swerve's like leg food area, and he even took off Strickland's boot and like bit him in the foot, which I have to say was pretty gross. Part of the match I didn't like, Prince Nana came out and he put Swerve's foot on the rope when he was about to be pinned. This was right in front of Aubrey, and I've spoken about this before, but they do a lot of distraction interference in AEW, but they've yet to find a way to actually make it look like the referees don't see this stuff. Like, so often it happens right in front of the referees' faces, and it makes the referees look really silly. And this was a really egregious example of that. It happened right in front of her, and she had to pretend like she didn't see it. Brian Cage was out there as well. He tripped up Darby Allin, which caused Swerve to attempt to use the chair, but then he thought better of it. Then they were like told to go to the back, which is like, you've already seen the foot on the rope thing, so why are we waiting till now to send these guys to the back? But okay. Anyway, the win came when Darby hit a code red for 2, but then he hooked on the Last Supper for the pin. But right as Darby won the match, MJF's music hit. He was in a lovely blue suit, and he came to the ring, microphone in hand. So then we had MJF coming out. He said he was in Milwaukee. He congratulated Darby on winning without Sting's help. He talked again about their match at Full Gear 2021 and how he beat Darby with a headlock takeover. I was at that show. That was a really, really awesome match. And he said that Darby wasn't on his level. Then Darby took the mic, and he basically said that MJF wasn't an unhappy person, and when they had been together in the indies, MJF said he'd be happy if he got national television. Now he's on national television and he's still not happy. He talked about how he sought out therapy when he was signed with AEW, and we got like a crowd cheer for therapy, which I thought was very cool and nice. He said that he has used his money to buy his parents a house and help his father retire. And then he said the iconic line, "Sting isn't my dad, he's one of my best friends." I laughed out loud and loved that line completely. As you guys know, I've been a Sting fan since I was a very young child, and my gosh, I would have loved Sting to be my best friend when I was a kid. Then MJF responded, and he basically said that his legacy would be being the greatest champion of all time, and Darby's would be being Sting's bitch. And then Sting's music hit, and out came Sting for one of the most bizarre yet brilliant segments I have ever seen. Sting was out in his bomber jacket, which looked really, really cool. And he said to MJF that he doesn't see himself as a daddy daycare kind of guy, but he's more of a cheerleader. And then he had pom-poms hidden in his jacket, which he started throwing at MJF. This was so random, but I just totally loved it. I love Sting has become like such a great promo, and I love like this side of him that he's been allowed to show in AEW. So yeah, he said that he's a cheerleader for Darby, just like Cody was a cheerleader for MJF, and then was like, ooh, I said Cody. And then just like Ric Flair was for him. And then he talked about all the different eras of his career, like Surfer Sting, the Crow Wolfpack Sting. He shouted out Kevin Nash. And Joker Sting. And he said that right now he's not thirsty for the world title. His time is almost over, but it's just starting for Darby Allin. And he told MJF that Darby Allin will be AEW World Champion one day. And then Darby Allin said that he'd be the one to end MJF's reign of terror. And MJF just spat in their faces and went. I love this segment. The 4 pillars story that they're building up, I do think that they're doing it very well with it. I haven't liked everything. You know, there's been, I thought like Sammy Guevara's promo last week was a bit of a misstep, but Darby is absolutely emerging as the guy. I don't know if they're going to do a 4-way match at the pay-per-view or if it's going to be a one-on-one, but if I was to pick one person to go against MJF, it would be Darby Allin. He's been the guy that's really excelled in this whole thing. The stuff with Sting was awesome. You know, this is reportedly the last year of Sting's wrestling career, and I've heard some people say that maybe you could build the All-In show around Sting's retirement match. When Sting's retirement match comes, it's going to be massive. But after hearing this promo, I now really want to see Sting wrestle MJF. I think that would be absolutely awesome. But yeah, this was so good. So good. And I wore my Sting t-shirt today just because I felt even more in love with him last night after watching Dynamite than ever. Awesome. Okay, then we got Powerhouse Hobbs versus Silas Young for the TNT title. I had to laugh a little bit because I was watching the Torch preview with Tyler before this show, and he was really bigging up, you know, Silas Young and his in-ring work. Well, we got to see none of that, so sorry, Tyler. So before this, we saw that QT Marshall gifted Powerhouse Hobbs a car, and it was like left in the parking lot with a red velvet rope around it. Hobbs just won really quickly with the town bangers. And then after the match, they dragged Powerhouse Hobbs and QT, dragged Young up to the ramp. And then we saw a video of Wardlow in the parking lot. And who would have thunk it? Powerhouse Hobbs' car got destroyed. This is very WWE. It was very Attitude Era. Wardlow smashed up the car with like a bat and everything, and then he even found a forklift. He was scratching it. The commentary was saying like, "Oh, Powerhouse Hobbs loves that car." He literally just got it. I do think that this was very silly. Like, it wasn't in my taste. And the booking of Wardlow has really been a problem ever since, you know, the Double or Nothing match with MJF, and it hasn't improved. I don't think having him do stuff like this is very good. So yeah, I didn't like this segment. You know, very WWE, not in a good way. I think Wardlow losing the hair has kind of negatively affected him as well, as far as like his overall look and star presence. And I do think all the QTV stuff is very silly. So Hobbs took this whole thing out on Silas Young. He was about to powerbomb him off the ramp into a table when Wardlow ran out. They were all brawling, and then Aaron Solo got powerbombed off the stage through a table. So overall, not a great segment for me. Not my favorite part of the show for sure. And I would love to see a better direction for Wardlow, really. Okay, it's time to get ready for some more hot, unhinged Jay White takes. Jay White made his AEW debut last week. You guys know how I feel about Jay White, and I was very honest about how I felt about his debut and why I thought maybe AEW wasn't the best place for him. But of course, I will always, you know, give the benefit of the doubt, see how things play out. Well, this week we got a backstage pre-tape between Jay White and Juice Robinson, where Jay White declared that they are Bullet Club Gold. Yeah, I didn't like this. Juice is nowhere near on Jay's level. I just think it's bad to have Jay associated with him. That's just immediately making Jay seem like a mid-card act. He's not. He's absolutely a main event act. And I don't see why he's going back to this Bullet Club stuff. I know Bullet Club's really popular, but for Jay, it's time to let it go. This guy lost a loser leaves Japan match. He then lost a loser leaves New Japan match. It really felt like he was looking for a fresh start, which, you know, he would have got if he'd gone to WWE, because he wouldn't have been doing Bullet Club stuff. And now Tony has picked the laziest possible way to integrate him into AEW. That's just like make him Bullet Club guy talking about Bullet Club stuff. I think it's lazy, and I want better for Jay. And we're only 2 weeks in, but I'm definitely not impressed with what they're doing with him. I'm impressed with him. Great promo, great everything. But I'm definitely not optimistic on how he's going to be treated in AEW. He's coming off mid-card, and he should never come off mid-card. You know, it is better for him to be in AEW, because I'd rather not have him working for or anywhere near Vince McMahon. You know, I'll just put that out there. But, you know, we've had people from AEW saying, like, we got Jay White, we got it, we got him from WWE, which is, you know, congratulations. But if you're not going to use him properly, then it's point, and you're just wasting immense talent. So yeah, I really hope stuff with Jay improves. I wish he wasn't doing Bullet Club stuff again. Then we had Orange Cassidy defeating Buddy Matthews to retain the AEW International title. This was a really, really good match, and Orange Cassidy has been a bit of an MVP these past couple of weeks with all the title defenses that he's doing. He's putting on some really awesome performances week to week. This match, they played up that Orange Cassidy's hand was injured, and they did it really, really well, where at right at the beginning of it, I wasn't sure if he actually injured his hand or not. Hurt his hand early on in the match delivering the orange punch. Matthews went on to stomp on his hand, and at some points it really seemed like Matthews was going to win, which wouldn't surprise me too much because I think this is kind of the kind of title that they can do like shock changes on. But eventually we saw Cassidy win with the mousetrap, so he got a flash pin there, and I think that sets it up for these two to face each other again because they had such a good match. Buddy Matthews, like such a solid worker. Orange Cassidy, a really great worker. You know, I know what the gimmick is, but he really is fantastic in the ring. And this was just such a good match. And the crowd were really into it as well, which helped. Now, because Julia Hart was out here with Buddy Matthews, I would like to mention something else. I usually try and keep these streams very lighthearted and fun, but I think this is definitely something that I want to talk about, and I think I would feel really bad if I didn't publicly bring this up. I did mention it on Twitter, but the main event of Rampage this past week was Julia Hart and Anna Jay. It did really good ratings. Congratulations to both Julia and Anna. But the commentary during that main event was really, really, really bad. And that was down to Jim Ross, who is still unable to call women's matches without being derogatory, using terms like Jezebel. That is his way to describe any heel woman. This is something that has been going on for a really long time. And it's been brought up countless times online. Every time it happens, you see people tweeting about it, but yet Jim Ross continues to use this outdated language, and he really needs to be told to stop this. It does feel like Jim Ross is someone who is not very good at taking criticism. And if that's true, well, he needs to be just flat out told that this is unacceptable. I don't want to sit and make comparisons between AEW and WWE, but in WWE it took a long time, way too long, for them to have a women's revolution where women were given anything close to the same level of respect as men. And when AEW started, it was a clean slate, and they really had the opportunity to be a company that treated women better than any wrestling, American wrestling organization ever has. And mostly they are really good with things. There are some problems, like nowhere's perfect, nothing's ever going to be perfect, but this issue with Jim Ross is a really ongoing one, and it does feel like because Jim holds a legendary status that he gets away with stuff that he should not be able to get away with. But it has to be made clear to him that this stuff is not acceptable. It brings down the product. Anna and Julia were out there having a really, really great match in front of a very large audience by Rampage standards, and it is so unfortunate that this commentary had to happen during their work. We all have to grow and adapt and change, and if someone is unwilling to, then maybe it's time to accept that society has moved on from them, and it is not the world's fault for moving forward. It is their fault for being unwilling to catch up. So yeah, the commentary during that match on Rampage I thought was really bad, and I would love to never have to hear the word Jezebel used again on television. You find plenty of ways to describe male heels. We do not need that word used for women. I just really wanted to address that because I think it is important for me to call stuff like that out. And if you're listening to it thinking that this was an overreaction or whatever, then I think you should think about the demographics of people that you are watching and why maybe this was particularly egregious to me. We had a vignette for Christian Cage and Luchasaurus. It was very like last week. Christian said that some things have changed. I guess he'll let us know later what those things are. Then we had Ethan Page in the ring. He talked about the stuff that he's been going through with the firm in recent weeks. He wanted to know why Matt Hardy hit him with the FTW title last week, and he demands to know what Matt Hardy put in the contract. Hardy came out with Isaiah Cassidy. They said that Ethan Page should have read the fine print. The contract said if Hook beats Page, then Hardy and Private Party are no longer part of the firm. Hardy said they'll get to pick a match stipulation, that if they win, they'll no longer be in the firm. It is so unclear whether they're actually free from the firm or not, or if that's coming. Ethan Page said there's more than just me in the firm, and then out came Big Bill and Lee Moriarty, who attacked Matt Hardy and Isaiah Cassidy before Hook made the save, but then the numbers were too much for Hook and Matt and Isaiah until Jeff Hardy's music hit and he made the save. So things to unpack here, and I'm going to start with the booking centric stuff first. I don't know what Per Hook has done to deserve a Matt Hardy alignment. Matt Hardy's stuff is always about contracts. It is so boring, ridiculous. I don't care about your contract. I don't care about anyone's contracts. It is just this weird universe that Matt Hardy exists in, where these contracts are so important and whatever. I'm not interested in this story at all. Hook is way too cool to be near Matt Hardy. I don't know. It's just bad to me. This whole thing was bad. Ethan Page is too good to be near any of this as well, but it's just wild to take someone as young and cool and with so much potential as Hook and be like, yeah, a Matt Hardy alignment, it would be great. Then we had Jeff's return. And this is another serious thing that I want to talk about. Jeff obviously got a huge ovation from the crowd, like he always does when he returns. And I saw a lot of people on Twitter very happy to see him back. I have extreme reservations about this. It was about 10 months ago that Jeff Hardy was arrested for a DUI. And if you go and look up the circumstances of his arrest, the police report, his blood alcohol levels, everything like that, this was really bad. This was really, really bad. Far from his first offense. I truly believe in second chances, but I think that we are beyond that with Jeff Hardy. Given his exit from WWE, I don't think that Tony should have hired him, but there's money to be made with the Hardy Boys, and he was brought in, and very quickly things went very wrong. And it is a miracle that Jeff or no one else was hurt that day he decided to drive a car. If I was Tony, I don't know what assurances I would have to get from Jeff to make me believe that he should be brought back. So I would be very interested to know what made the people in power here, believe that Jeff should be brought back. It is not just, the idea of giving him this spot, platforming him, but for the sake of his own health. He hit a swanton, he's immediately holding his back. It's very clear he's about 45 years old, that his body has been through so much. I'm not sure that resting in the ring is the best for someone that's had his problems, and I'm not sure that being on the road, staying in hotels, all that stuff is the best either. There has to be a time where we just say no more chances, and maybe the best thing for everyone is for Jeff to try and find a way to enjoy life without it involving professional wrestling. So I can't say that I was cheering for the return of Jeff Hardy. DUIs, I don't have to sit here and say how serious DUIs are. Putting other people's lives in danger like that, when we live in a world where freaking Ubers exist and you're a millionaire, it's disgusting. So I really hope that things work out for Jeff this time, but I can't say that I have faith. He really does have to prove himself, and I don't think 10 months is a long enough time, really, at all. I wish the best for Jeff. I hope he really is in a good place, and I really hope that the company thought long and hard about making this decision to bring him back to television. Obviously, Jeff has legions of fans out there, but no one is beyond criticism, especially when it comes to such serious matters. So if you are a fan of Jeff, I do encourage you to try and separate the person from the performer and really think about this and Jeff's actions and whether or not you truly feel comfortable with seeing him back on TV. And I hope that they have things in place that will help him manage his life on the road and with everything that professional wrestlers go through. So those are my feelings on the return of Jeff Hardy. It's always hard to segue from something like that, but let's try. We had a video of Kenny Omega at home with his nice picture of him and Don in the background, and he was talking about all the attacks that the Blackpool Combat Club have done in weeks. We saw a video of Don Callis's head after his fall like 2 weeks ago. This was brutal, absolutely brutal. Yeah, Don got really hurt there, and that was, you know, an accident. Like he hit his head when he fell, and wow, that was so nasty. Kenny said that he understands why the Blackpool Combat Club did what they did. They want to make headlines. And Omega said that Don might not be the most likable person, but he's family. And he said he's not out for blood. Whenever he sees them next, it'll be much worse. Which segued us into a kind of quite bizarre, in my opinion, match/angle. We had Moxley and Claudio defeating Brandon Cutler and Michael Nakazawa. Brandon and Nakazawa got completely brutalized. They were both bloodied. I genuinely felt sorry for them. And this was going on, and it was like, why is no one helping them? And the commentators were saying, like, Kenny isn't there. So these two were like little sacrificial lambs. So the end came when Rick Knox just called for the bell because the brutality was too much. Then John Moxley took the mic and he said the elite Don Callis had glass jaws. And then Kenny Omega's music hit and he came out. So Kenny was actually here and we got this surprise run-in. But I was just like, dude, you just let your friends get totally destroyed. Kenny, you are a bad friend. Like, what? And I do totally get, and the Young Bucks then appeared after that. I get the idea of like shock return of the elite and the Young Bucks. If I was Brandon and Michael, I would be looking for some other friends right about now because Kenny did not handle it well. He did not have their back. That actually made me laugh. I felt really sorry for them. Anyway, Kenny then got out like a toolbox from under the ring, but he was given a screwdriver by Matt Jackson. And he was going to attack Moxley with it, but Moxley like spat in his face and Claudio pulled him out. So more like Blackpool Combat Club brutality stuff, but now we see the elite coming in to try and like rise to their levels of violence, at least giving the impression that they will. Definitely think this is setting up like an anarchy in the arena for Double or Nothing, which is going to be awesome. I'm going to be there, by the way. Yeah, I thought the show was very much missing Kenny last week because I'd become so invested in his story. This week, it was good to see him back, but I do feel that this story wasn't given enough prominence because it had been so good, but I am, really excited to see where this is going, and I enjoyed it very much. Then we had Tony backstage with Swerve, Brian Cage, and Prince Nana. Basically, Swerve said that Mogul Embassy is growing and they aren't done yet tonight. There's scores to settle. So that was the biggest foreshadowing spoiler that you could have possibly got for the main event. Then we had Tony Storm and Ruby Soho defeating RHIO and Sky Blue. This match was absolutely fine, but my gosh, we are in Groundhog Day with this storyline. Sky Blue was the one who was pinned. Then all the Outcasts came to beat her and RHIO up. And RHIO got an L spray painted on her. And then, of course, Jamie Hayter's music hit too late. she came out, and then Britt Baker came out. And really, this is absolute Groundhog Day. This happens every freaking time. And Jamie and Britt don't even like guess that it's going to happen and come to accompany their friends to the ring to even things. They just wait till the last possible second and run out. Yeah, it's Groundhog Day. It's so lazy. All the women deserve better. It's lazy booking, and it is bad training. Then it was time for our main event as Chris Jericho took on Keith Lee. Now, this was like, so last week it was so freaking random when Keith Lee just inserted himself in like Jericho's business and was basically like, you were disrespectful to Adam Cole, and so I'm gonna have a match with you. And then commentary tonight explained that Keith Lee and Adam Cole had a feud before, and that made them gain each other's respect. So I guess NXT kind of is happening. As for the match, I thought it was fine. To me, well, I haven't seen Keith wrestle a singles match in a really long time. I think it's been about almost a year since he's had one. I wasn't very impressed with his performance in this match. He wasn't giving a main event worthy performance. I think it looked painful when he did the moonsault on Jericho, and Jericho got his knees up. Like, that looked actually painful. So at one point Jericho got Keith Lee in the walls, and Danny, my good friend Danny, was out there telling Keith Lee to give up, and he didn't, but Jericho thought he had tapped. Then we had the customary Jericho Aubrey spot, so he distracted her while Garcia got Jericho free from Keith Lee. Then Garcia distracted Aubrey again, and we had a masked man run in and hit Keith in the head with an object. It was obviously Swerve. Tony Schiavone was acting like he had really cracked a mystery when he confirmed that it was Swerve once we saw him later with the mask off. Jericho won. Aubrey had no idea how Keith ended up knocked out, but she counted anyway. Yeah, this wasn't the best main event, I had to say. Thought Jericho did a fine job, but yeah. So then Adam Cole came out. This was kind of funny because there was a whole thing about Vince McMahon wanting Adam Cole to be Keith Lee's manager. So Vince finally got his moment of seeing what that would look like on screen, because he came to help Keith Lee to the back, literally just help him like a friend. But it was mirroring how Jericho helped Daniel Garcia to the back 2 weeks ago, because Adam Cole did not acknowledge Jericho, like Jericho didn't acknowledge Adam Cole. And then in the ring you could see Jericho doing some acting, expressing how annoyed he was for Adam Cole like ignoring him. And that's how we ended the show. Perfectly fine ending, though I think a little flat compared to in recent weeks. I guess they're continuing the Swerve Keith Lee feud, and that was their way of getting to it. And Adam Cole and Jericho, I definitely think is going to be the double or nothing match. I would really like to see like Jericho one night only team with Swerve to take on Adam Cole and Keith Lee in the build up, though. I think that would be pretty cool. But yeah, that was your main event. And that was Dynamite. I really did enjoy the show. It totally flew by. I couldn't believe it when I looked at the clock at one point and it was 20 to 3 a.m. So the show was nearly over. There was some really good stuff on there. The Sting, MJF, Darby Allin stuff stands out the most for me. And there was some other, questionable stuff that I definitely covered during this review. As for who I was the biggest fan of this week, it has to be my man Sting. Sting did a great job in his promo. I loved it so much. If this is the last year that Sting wrestles, he better have the biggest retirement going out ever. But it was so cool. I've got my Stinger shirt on. Stinger for life. Sting, this week I was the biggest fan of you. That's all from me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to please subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. join me for future live streams. Go catch up on my live stream about CM Punk if you haven't seen it. Check out my video of what we know so far about All In Wembley when it comes up. The hype for All In Wembley, like, this channel is the place to be. Believe me, like, AEW doing a show in London is so huge for me. You know, I'm the one who goes out there to those US pay-per-views, and now they're coming to my home. So I am going to make sure that my YouTube page is the place to be if you want to get excited and you want to know everything about that show. But yeah, subscribe, go follow me on my platforms. Please check out my Patreon and consider becoming a member of this channel. And until next time, bye.